So yeah, it was this very odd form of propaganda that was posted by Governor Jay Inslee of Washington, and it's this video of, and I'm gonna mute the audio, of course, but it's this propaganda piece. You guys can look where they're basically saying that you can get COVID anywhere, right? And they have all of these people getting together with all of these other folks, and then they end up in the hospital, right? And it's such a dangerously insane piece, mainly because, for one, it's not rooted in any sort of fact. Or anything of that matter. It's acting as if it's concrete that, okay, you go somewhere where other people are around, and if you end up getting this virus, you're going to be put in the hospital. And some of these guys look relatively healthy, except, obviously the guy you're looking at right now is a older fella. But this moronic idea that COVID-19 is either a death sentence or it's a sort of hospitalization sentence, if you will. It's incorrect. Let's start there. It is a false assumption. It's not rooted in any sort of science. It is something that it happens more so to the minority of people, let's say that end up contracting the virus, as it all stands, as all statistical metrics point to, right? And never mind the survivability rate. We know that the survivability rate among most demographics, you're looking at the upwards of 99%, right? Which is very high, by the way. But most people that get this aren't going to need to get hospitalized either. But this is the sort of propaganda that they're putting out there now. It's to scare you. Not only does it legitimize all the government, these authoritarian, draconian laws, or rather mandates that they put out there, but it legitimizes the lockdowns, the furthering of the mask mandates, it's not even ever going to come to an end. Constant kicking the can down the road and trying to put fear. This is literal propaganda in which they are fear mongering and trying to place fear in the populace. Of course, maintaining control. They like to insist that you should stop your life. Don't move around. Don't see your loved ones. And all of this, by the way, has led into other mental health issues, by the way. We know what we've talked about on this channel, I don't know how many times, suicide rates and everything else. So you have mental health issues, other medical issues being going completely undiagnosed. This thing has created, aside from the economic impact, which we know of, it's created a medical impact that doesn't necessarily pertain to you contracting the virus. But it's fear-mongering type of shit that I despise. I despise it. Certainly when it comes from anybody, but this idea that now more than ever, it's just so much propaganda being pumped out of there in which they try to present COVID-19 as a fucking death sentence, when it's not. Like I said, by all statistical metrics, it's not. It is not. Good news is, and which should be good news, unless you are some sort of weirdo that wants to spread doom and gloom, because I guess you want to. I don't know if it's an ego thing. You want to say that you somehow survived the apocalypse. Maybe that's what it is. But nonetheless, the good news is that most people that catch this virus are going to live. Most people that catch this virus are not going to need to ever go to the hospital. Again, not my opinion. Right, that's what your quote unquote experts say. Yet here we are, going into another flu season, can continue to get kicked down the road. All of the we're going to stop this, we're going to stop that. We're going to get control of this virus. So we got to lock everything down. You can't meet up with people. You can't do this. Wear a diaper on your face wherever you go. And none of their policies have worked. And when they do fail, they end up blaming it on people that don't follow the policy, which is bull crap. They just are rather ineffective. The reality was, as always, that the virus was going to be a virus, and it was going to run through the population in the way that it ran through the population. Unfortunately, a lot of vulnerable people were going to pass. But that's never been an excuse to shut down people's lives. That's never been an excuse to stop people from linking up with folks, assuming whatever risk that they freely want to and should be able to assume. You know, none of that has ever been on the table for them, because they, for whatever reason, took this virus and treated it as if it was something that we had never, ever seen. And what I mean by that is that we've seen, of course, respiratory illnesses. We've seen upper respiratory diseases. We've seen people pass viruses among each other, right? Coronaviruses at that. And we've never, ever stopped the country from moving around, stopped other countries, not the country, it's countries all around the world. We've never, ever done anything like this, certainly for something that is not, believe it or not, it's not that deadly. And I say something like that and people will start clutching their pearls, but I'm saying literally it is not that deadly, and that should be great news for you. If you were scared back in March, that should be absolutely great news, as more data has come out, and it should be awesome news, unless you are spreading and you want doom and gloom. And some people want it. Obviously, there are folks that are seeing economic, we talk about this wealth transfer, small businesses going out of business, and people getting positions of power, presenting themselves in positions of power, positioning rather themselves to get in positions of power. And they've used the COVID-19 thing to do that, right? But any good news is bad news to them, right? Remember when the death count seemed to go down, we also had how, those initial, Stanford University and all of these universities and around the world that were not universities necessarily, scientists around the world that were doing these antibody tests, right? And you could see how less deadly that it was when you look at the actual IFR, the infected fatality rate, not looking at confirmed. That's not how you decide for something that people walk around with, and they'll spread this virus having never had any symptoms and never will have any symptoms. You cannot decide the fatality rate of something by only mere confirmed cases as well as the confirmed deaths. That is a very dishonest way of doing it. But you did have those start to come out with the of the studies and doing and finding the IFR, and what we had found out was that, well, it isn't really that deadly. Will people catch it and will people die? Absolutely. That is the thing that is going to happen. And it doesn't, I'm not saying this to be a cruel person. People die. Y'all do understand that happened before COVID-19. People died. Old people died. Some young people that had other issues died. People will spread viral pneumonia, which doesn't have a cure, by the way. If it's not associated with influenza, there is no cure for viral pneumonia. Yet people would get that. People would die from it, especially older populations and vulnerable populations with comorbidities and what have you. Yet this whole response has been completely irrational. And they're still pumping out this propaganda, and they want you to remain seated, no, rather trapped in a bubble, no matter the mental consequences that come with that. But they don't want you to move around. And I'm not telling you to get out there and move around. I'm telling you to do what the fuck you want. Right. But this idea that COVID-19 is a hospitalization sentence or it's a death sentence is garbage. And it's simply not true. It's simply not true. Yet they will continue to pump out these disgusting ads to try to place fear into you. You see that and you're like, oh my God, if I go somewhere, I can contract the virus and I can get hospitalized. Probably. But when I say probably, I'm meaning in the sense that it can happen, right? But it doesn't mean that it will happen. And for most people that contract it, it won't happen. That's just the reality of the situation.